ask and ye shall receive. So, HoloXBreak is a game from the creators of HoloCure, where instead of trying to cure the fans, you've just resorted to beating them up. The game is more difficult for me than HoloCure, but it's still got a pretty straightforward gameplay loop. And it also tells you how to play. So to start, you must pick one of 4 characters to play as. You've got Umaru Polka, the close range damage dealer, Shishiro Botan, who has a gun, Yuki Hanalami, the CC character who fights like an alcoholic cop with a clumsy spouse, and Momosuzu Nene, a healer who lets her harem do the fighting while keeping them alive. Each character has several moves they can perform in the game, which get unlocked over time as you level up, which you do by defeating enemies. The first is the normal attack, a standard low damage attack with mediocre range that you can always do. Besides the normal attack is the dodge roll, which allows characters to gain a brief window of invincibility as they move forward, allowing you to dodge attacks. I think the distance you dodge is affected by speed, but I could just be gaslighting myself on that. Then there's the power attack, which is unlocked at level 2. It's an attack activated by charging a normal attack that is usually stronger than the normal attack in some way, usually power or range. Then there's ability 1, which is what defines the character's kit, and is unlocked at level 3. This is the most distinct ability, and it is powerful, but in exchange has a cooldown. Then there's ability 2, unlocked at level 7, which is activated by holding down the button for ability 1. It's much stronger than ability 1, but it usually has a longer cooldown as a result. The ultimate, a character's strongest ability that is unlocked at level 10, is an ability that is only charged by dealing damage to enemies or dodging their attacks successfully, and usually has some batshit insane effect. When you enter a game, you'll basically keep running right until a wave of enemies appear. You then must beat up all the enemies, and when you beat them up, you will earn experience to level up, and they'll drop holo coins, as well as green orbs that heal you, equipment that you can wear to increase your stats or get special abilities, and consumables which do everything from heal you, buff you temporarily, or throw out a weapon that damages enemies. After you defeat a whole wave of enemies, you'll get a box which will drop more stuff that you can pick up. You rinse and repeat this process until you finish the first segment of a stage. As you keep moving to the right, you'll encounter field items, which you can pick up and attack enemies with, and tied up fans. If you attack the fans, you can free them and they'll fight for you. Different fans do different things, so I advise you to protect the Yukimins. It should also be noted that those green orbs will also heal fans when you pick them up if you have maxed out your health. When you get to the end of the 5th stage segment, you'll encounter a boss, a member of HoloX, whom you'll have to kill. Learning their attack patterns is very important, as this not only allows you to know how to avoid their attacks, but to also know when the boss is open for you to actually attack them. But if you're like me and suck at this game, then don't worry, you can still keep leveling up even after you get killed, so just keep trying. It took me 7 tries to beat Takane Lui. At the end of the stage, you'll have this rest stop where you can buy equipment and consumables from Norika, upgrade your equipment with Kayla, or buy emotes. My personal advice is to never buy anything from Norika. You can easily get more than enough equipment and consumables from just defeating enemies, and she only sells low tier equipment. The only reason you should talk to her is to sell any low tier equipment that you have. As for Kayla can upgrade your equipment to boost its stats or enhance equipment to increase its rarity, adding another stat that it can increase. I personally advise against enhancing equipment, as it is a very convenient way to lose a lot of holo coins on a whole lot of nothing. Spend all of your holo coins on upgrading equipment, and any spare coins you have should be spent on buying emotes. You can also farm likes by dodge rolling past the fire, but be careful if you do this, as you might accidentally set yourself on fire. For consumables, my recommendation is to get at least 1 healing consumable. My recommendation is Samurai Dango, since while there are consumables that heal you more, they don't drop in as large a quantity, and Dango strikes that balance in healing a substantial amount while also dropping enough that you can keep a full stock without having to fill your item slots with nothing but healing. Though, I try not to use them outside of the boss fights. Not only do enemies drop healing orbs, but leveling up fully restores your health, meaning you should have access to ample amounts of healing in most fights. With the boss, you aren't killing many enemies, so with no orbs or levels, the Dango is your only source of healing. For the rest of your kit, I usually go for 2 buffing consumables and 2 offensive consumables. My personal picks are Shishito Coffee and Tokino Soda as my buffers, and BL Book and Tuning Fork for my offense. I generally only use the coffee and soda in boss fights, but I strongly recommend using BL Book and Tuning Fork in the regular fights, since BL Book is very good at dealing with enemies when you're surrounded, and Tuning Fork can incapacitate a lot of enemies if they all rush you from the same direction. They're also great against bosses, so there's that. For items, I personally try to go for one of 3 chest items: Happy Coat, Reaper's Cloak, or Breastplate. Happy Coat continuously heals you over time, making it an all-around solid pick. Reaper's Cloak gives your dodge roll the ability to damage enemies, making it quite useful for turning one of your defensive abilities into an offensive one. And Breastplate makes it so that when you charge attacks, enemies won't be able to interrupt you. They can still damage you, but that's a minor inconvenience. Because enemies can interrupt you when you charge attacks, it pretty much makes every charge attack difficult to do without Breastplate if you can't get the timing down, making the item nearly essential if you want to access half of your moveset and you are still in the early parts of learning how to play the game. Beyond that, the head and accessory item that you choose doesn't really matter beyond raising the stats. stats. This is why the high tier items are better than the lower tier items, since while a normal item will only raise 1 stat, rare items raise 3 stats, and that adds up. Not only do they raise more stats, but leveling up the equipment on higher rarity items gives you a higher stat boost than on lower rarity items. As for which stats you should raise, the 3 stats I recommend you raise the most are speed, luck, and defense. Speed is self-explanatory, as moving faster will allow you to not only avoid enemy attacks, but to move from encounter to encounter faster, saving you on time. Luck increases the chances of enemies dropping things, with higher luck corresponding to better drops. The earlier you focused on boosting your luck, the quicker you can get high tier items and consumables, which translates into higher stats, making the game easier. It also increases the chance of successfully enhancing equipment from Kyla, though I've made my thoughts on enhancing equipment clear already.
This is when enhancing the items is okay.
Defense, which reduces 1% of your damage for every 2 defense points, is the best stat to get, because unlike in most games, defense scales additively in HoloXBreak. In most games, stats that allow you to mitigate damage, like damage reduction and evasion, tend to scale multiplicatively. For example, if you have a 50% chance to dodge an attack, and then get an item that boosts that chance by another 50% chance, multiplicative scaling would mean that you would only have a 75% chance of dodging. Think radiation half-lives. However, if it's scaled additively, then you would have a 100% chance of dodging any attack, making you completely invincible. It should be pretty obvious why most games go for the former, but outside of a game-breaking perspective, what that means is that the return on boosting defensive stats tends to diminish, but not in HoloXBreak. If you keep scaling up your defense, you could become immune to all damage in the game. While that realistically won't happen, it should still emphasize how broken damage reduction is. So that's most of the bare essentials for clearing a run on HoloXBreak. Most runs will take about 1 hour, 2 if you die to the bosses a lot, so learn how to use your skills to different enemies and you'll eventually be able to beat the game. So, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos, and happy HoloBreaking? That doesn't have the same ring to it. Anyway, bye!